Hello, it is I, BJ Weiler, once again, and you are watching Awesome Sauce for Games, episode 2. Anyway, this episode I wanted to talk about the subscription-based versus free-to-play business model of MMOs. What brings this up is naturally, we've recently found out that two of the most anticipated MMO releases upcoming, probably for early next year at this point, which is WildStar and The Elder Scrolls Online, will have a subscription in order to play the game. Now, WildStar is going to be a little bit different. I think they have different pay levels, different subscription costs. Not exactly sure how that's going to work content-wise, what you're going to be able to do, what you're not going to be able to do. But they also have, I think, a method to where you, just by playing the game, you can earn credit towards your subscription. So if you play a whole ton, if you're a hardcore player, you might not even have to pay anything. But the Elder Scrolls Online is going the traditional route. And so that's what we're really going to talk about today. Because in the face of the last couple of years where it seems free-to-play is being the trend, looks like ZeniMax Online is trying to bank on bucking that trend and hoping that the IP will carry them through that subscription. So, first, before we get too much into it, let me just say I'm a free-to-play guy. Hey, if it's free, if I can do something and it's not going to cost me anything, hey, I love it. But only if it's legal. If you're a pirate, you're an ass. Games are worth paying for, then I'm going to pay for them, if that's what's required. If they're free, however, legally, so much the better. Anyway, that's probably a subject for another show. Anyway, more or less, I'm a big fan of the Bide play model, which is basically the way games used to be until the MMOs genre blew up onto the scene. You run out to the store, you pay your $60, you got your game, you're playing as much as you want, when you want, and that's it. You never have to pay another dime for that game unless you want to buy its sequel or you want to buy some sort of like little expansion content, $10 horse armor. But anyway, that buy to play has always been my preferred means, and that's essentially how I got into the MMO genre to begin with, a la ArenaNet with Guild Wars back in 2005. Back in those days, I said, why am I going to pay $15 a month to keep playing a game I already paid for? Along comes ArenaNet to save my day. Not only do they create an awesome game that I am still playing today, but they did it to where I would not have to pay anything above and beyond the boxed price. And that's the way I've been doing it. Of course, I've spent a whole heck of a lot more money on their cash shop, which was implemented, I think, probably a year after the initial release. Somewhere around there. I'll have to check on that. Anyway, still, all in all, over the last 8 years, what I've spent in their cash shop, for 4 accounts, mind you, still does not add up to what it would cost me for a subscription for 1 account in those 8 years. So, hey, buy to play is the way to go. Anyway, ZeniMax doesn't think so. And in an interview with GameStar, I'll have a link in the description of this video if you want to check out that interview for yourself. Matt Firor, excuse me, I'm terrible with names, the general manager of ZeniMax Online, explains why they went with this business model. Excuse me. Now, in this interview, Matt says, we're thrilled that gamers are looking forward to diving into the Elder Scrolls Online, and we've been working hard to deliver the game that fans want, one that's worthy of the Elder Scrolls name. Before I continue, let me just ask this question. have any of the previous Elder Scrolls games had a subscription fee? I'm going to go with no. They're single player games, and now while I feel there is a market for an online game, a la Star Wars, for IPs like that, Star Wars: The Old Republic, Lord of the Rings, Elder Scrolls, I think there's a market for an MMO in that IP. I don't think there's much of a market for a subscription in that IP. So you're going to have a tough sell with all those older Scrolls fans like myself. I'm not really a hardcore fan, but I have enjoyed the games in the past. You're going to have a tough sell because, quite frankly, I wasn't planning on playing the Elder Scrolls heavily. I was going to check it out. And I would have probably played it at least somewhat, and then if the game was interesting enough, kept playing it, like I have with, Defiance and Star Wars: The Old Republic and Guild Wars. I got interested in them games, and they just compelled me to keep playing. Not so much now. With subscription, I really have no interest in it whatsoever. I mean, I have an interest in it, but I'm not going to play it. I have no interest in playing the game, no matter how good it is whatsoever. Like I said, I'm already playing Star Wars: Old Republic. I'm compelled enough by that game. I enjoyed enough to where I have 2 subscription accounts, which is kind of hard to justify at this point, but still, I think it's worth my money. So I'm willing to pay if I think something's worth my money. At this point, it's worth my money. That $30 a month is worth my money for Star Wars: The Old Republic. I'm not going to give that up for something else, no matter how good it is. I'm already invested. I'm already involved in Star Wars: The Old Republic. So it's going to be a tough sell for me to justify either dropping one of those accounts to a premium account to continue playing, which I could, and then try the Elder Scrolls Online and see how it is. But my time's limited too. I'm really enjoying the heck out of Star Wars: The Old Republic. I still got a lot of game time in there. I don't foresee justifying either dropping one of those subscriptions to pick up Elder Scrolls Online, or even just picking up Elder Scrolls Online and making it $45 a month for my gaming habit between those 2 games. I just don't see it. The time's just not there. And quite frankly, the money really isn't just there anyway. But anyway, Matt goes on to say, we're building a game with the freedom to play alone or with your friends. Good. They are trying to capture the single player Elder Scrolls fan base as much as you want. Alone or with your friends as much as you want. A game with meaningful and consistent content. One packed with hundreds of hours of gameplay that can be experienced right away, and one that will be supported with premium customer support. Charging a flat monthly or subscription fee means that we will offer players the game we set out to make and one that fans want to play. Going with any other model meant that we would have to make sacrifices and changes we weren't willing to make, unquote. That comment brings out this first question to me, in that what sacrifices would you have to make if you went free to play or with some hybrid model? Why do you need a subscription in order to provide superior customer support? A little story here. About 10-15 years ago, I guess it was now, I was playing this little ditty of a game called Stronghold by Firefly. Love that game, and that was the game that pulled me out of my wizardry days back there. My wizardry dungeon grind days. And that was followed, of course, by Guild Wars. But when I was on my Stronghold kick, I had to call customer support. It wasn't really a big technical problem, but it was just a performance question I had with the game on the system I was running it on. Surprise, surprise, I talked to a real person when I called, and I got some pretty good customer support. He basically just answered my question, and answered several of my questions, and told me what I wanted to know. This was a game that did not charge a subscription to give me excellent customer support. Excuse me again. So I'm trying to figure out that in the history of the gaming industry, how all these games, without charging a subscription, still managed decent customer support. Now, of course, we do have examples to where, some companies have terrible customer support, but that's not unique to games, and it's also not unique to something that doesn't charge a subscription fee. And in fact, there are games that do charge subscription fees that still have poor customer support. So to use that as a justification for a subscription fee boggles my mind. Doesn't make sense. So I would really like to know what sacrifices and changes they would have to make if they didn't charge a subscription. You take the biggest buy-to-play game right now, which is, your hybrid free-to-play. So to speak, you're still paying for the box. It's not completely free. You're still paying for the box and buy-to-play. Like the traditional, you pay the box, you get the full game. Guild Wars is Guild Wars 2. We've always had, again, depending on who you talk to, you'll always have that segment of the player base that no matter how good the customer support is, they're going to complain about it. But, I don't think ArenaNet made too many sacrifices. Or if they did, sure as hell doesn't reflect it in the game or their customer support. And they don't charge a subscription. Okay, Matt, try selling that one. But, hey, that's what they wanted to go with. That's what we're going to be stuck with from now on. And so that's what's now dividing the community and really polarizing some of the fan base and player base right now. And a lot of the argument, whenever this comes up, not even with Elder Scrolls Online, whenever this comes up, the arguments, you can basically boil all the arguments against free-to-play or to justify subscription down to what I've seen as 4 basic tenets. Somebody says, hey, if you get a subscription, you don't get, these 4 bullet points don't become a problem with your subscription game. They're problems with free-to-play games. Number 1 is bad community. If you have a subscription game, you're going to have a better community. Okay. Yeah. Number 2, with a subscription, that subscription gives you access to everything that the developers create, gives you access to all the content. Okay. Number 3, that subscription gives the developers money to keep producing content at a regular clip, quality content. You get more, you get your expansions, that kind of stuff. So that's the 3rd point that is usually made to justify subscription. And the 4th is a real biggie, and it's such a biggie that we'll probably tackle it more in depth on the next episode. And that's, if you have a subscription, then you don't have pay to win in your game. Generally, pay to win involves a cash shop, which is how a free to play game generally makes its money. And depending on what's sold in that cash shop, people may consider some items, such as armor, paying to win. You're basically paying to advance your level or to become better than somebody else who doesn't spend money. But again, that in and of itself is polarizing enough to be dedicated to a complete show next time. Anyway, let's tackle these bullet points one by one, shall we? Anyway, bad community. Excuse me. Yeah, bad community. With a subscription-based game, your community is going to be better. Now, in my 30 years of gaming, I've played free-to-play games, completely free-to-play games with a cash shop. I've played the hybrid model, a la Guild Wars. I haven't played Guild Wars 2, but you gotta give credit where credit's due sometimes. And I've played subscription-based games, a la Star Wars The Old Republic. I've played Vanguard before that went free-to-play. Those are basically the two ones I spent the most amount of time. I also, I got a lifetime subscription in Star Trek Online. What a mistake that was. But anyway, they were all subscription-based games at one time or another. I've also visited a lot of forums for games I was interested in. Conan, Pirates of the Burning Sea, Dungeon Runners. I played as a free-to-play game. Um, but I'm a gamer. I'll go to gaming forums and games I'm interested in, even in games I'm not interested in, but there seems to be something hot going on with it. I'll go peek in at the forums and see what it's all about. And I have to say, between the three basic business models, you're free to play, buy to play, and subscription based, there's not one damn bit of difference between any of those communities. A subscription for a game does not get you any better community than a completely free to play game. Just the evidence is just not there. I've seen it in the last 10 years since we've had MMOs, but there have been toxic gaming communities in the 30 plus years that I've been a gamer. So subscription gets you nothing on the community side. Sorry. You're an idiot if you believe your community is going to be better with a subscription. It's not. You're going to have good players, you're going to have mediocre players, you're going to have toxic players, whether you have a subscription or whether you're free to play. That's just the way it is. It's not going to change. So that argument is really out the door to justify a subscription. There's no evidence for it whatsoever. Next, access to all content and gating content. Now, generally speaking, in free-to-play games, they'll make their money by selling stuff in the cash shop. Some of that stuff might be extra content. Just like like the example I gave in our premiere episode about the theme park in Disneyland, Disney World, to where, Disney World, you had your entrance fee, which was the initial game fee, and then each of the 5 themed areas were gated off until you paid something extra. In that case, I was referring to DLC, but what many people refer to justify subscription in this case is that a free-to-play game will gate content, will gate, Disney World gating their 5 themed areas until you pay money to access that content. Well, start off with even with the subscription, you're already paying for extra content. You're paying for the expansions that come. WoW has been the biggest subscription-based game, and every expansion that came out, you had to pay for that. So already that's treading on thin water. But not only did Matt talk about the Elder Scrolls subscription, he also mentioned that they are going to have a cash shop. That's right. Players who think a subscription means you don't have to deal with cash shop woes, you're getting a cash shop in your subscription-based game. I will link the article in the description along with the interview article. But to quote this here, this is from... Where's this from? Anyway, well, I'll link it. You figure out where it's from. Anyway, in this little article here, it says Elder Scrolls Online will have a cash shop. When asked if the game had anything extra beyond a subscription, Mr. Furore, I think, said, there won't be anything like bonus points, but we'll have a shop to buy now remember this, we'll have a shop to buy kinda fun stuff. And services too, like name changes and things like that. But it's not part of the core game. Anything in the core game is included in the subscription price. Okay, that sounds like pretty much any decent free-to-play cash shop I've heard. Most decent free-to-play cash shops have fun stuff in them, as well as the name change, server transfer services, the under the hood type of stuff that I don't think any subscription game, yeah, well, or at least, well, we'll just say WoW has the same type of cash shop anyway. And for the most part, I think a lot of games free to play and subscription will probably charge for server transfers and stuff. I know since I don't use server transfers, I don't know exactly, but anyway, it seems that seems to be the SOP for like those, back under the hood type deals and stuff. But the key point, fun stuff. What do you think fun stuff is going to be? Ah, yes, unique armor skins, unique mini pets, unique mounts. Same thing that, Rift has in their cash shop. Same thing that Star Wars The Old Republic has in their cash shop. Same thing that World of Warcraft has in their cash shop. Fluff items, generally what's called fluff items. So you don't need it to play the game, but hey, it's that cool new looking armor that your subscription does not get you. You are going to pay extra for that. So again, subscription equals access to all content? Not anymore. Now, while that is an ideal concept, one that I don't disagree with, if I'm paying $15 a month, yeah, I'm going to feel like I should get everything with that $15 a month too. But the going trend is that is no longer the case. So to say that, hey, I'm paying a subscription, I'm getting everything, you're not getting everything anymore. Just like I said last episode, the price of games have not gone up that much in the last 20 years. In the last 10 to 15 years, the subscription for an MMO has not gone up either. While started at 15, they're still at 15. You're still getting a lot more for that $15 than you did back then. So developers have to make their money somehow. Now, like I said last episode again, I don't begrudge them making money. So this is how they're going to do it. They're going to do it with cash shops. Your subscription is no longer a guarantee that you're going to get everything they create. I mean, already we see now some games, a la Defiance, they have DLC. You have a season pass. You essentially get a DLC free. They're planning 5 DLC packs. Star Wars The Old Republic already had a DLC for $10. If you're a subscriber, it costs you $10 to get the extra plan, to get Rise of the Hutt Cartel. Same thing with Defiance. Each DLC is going to get you $10 for extra content, for extra missions, that kind of stuff. That's kind of new, but it's the trend. I mean, it's been the trend with the single player games. Now it's catching up to the MMO world, we see. So your subscription is not going to get you everything. It's not going to be a guarantee against gated content. And quite frankly, the biggest pay gate, the biggest gated content I have ever seen is a $15 a month subscription. At least in the free-to-play game, even if it has gated content, you're still getting something for free. You're still playing something in that game, getting some of the meat and bones for free. You may have to pay for a lot of extra outside stuff. You're still playing for free. Subscription-based game, sorry, bang, doors are closed. You get nothing unless you shell out the $15 a month. If that's not a pay gate, I don't know what the hell is. But hey. Again, only my opinion. You don't like it, get over it. That's our rule here. But like I said, that aside, you can see the genre is changing. It's progressing, just like the game industry has progressed over the last 30 years. That subscription is no longer a guarantee to get everything. It's just not. You're not going to get everything. You're going to be paying extra down the road. So if there's choice between paying $15 a month and paying extra down the road, or paying nothing and paying some extra down the road, I'm going to pay nothing and just pay the extra down the road, because, based on how I play games, based on my cheap old bastard mindset, I'm not paying anything extra that I don't necessarily need. I've got 4 accounts for the original Guild Wars. I've bought just about everything they've had in their cash shop. Spread out, some stuff for each of the 4 accounts. So everything I have paid for cash shop purchases in Guild Wars for all 4 accounts is still cheaper over the past 8 years than I would have for paying one subscription for one account. $15 a month for one account in Guild Wars over 8 years, I would have paid a hell of a lot more than I have to date put out in that cash shop. Nowhere near if I paid enough. Star Wars The Old Republic, I've got 2 subscription accounts. I have paid nothing in the cash shop. Nothing. Costs me nothing in the cash shop because, part of it, the subscription, I get some cash shop coinage. So, hey, the couple of things I did bought didn't cost me anything. But again, there's a bunch of stuff in there. Yeah, it'd be cool to have, but I don't need it to play, so it's not costing me a dime extra. I've got a ton of coinage just sitting there doing nothing. I'm eventually going to spend, but even if I didn't have it, it's about free will. It's about being grown up enough to be able to make the choice to say, you know what, I don't need it to play the game. I don't need the fancy Helm of Doom with my plumage in order to play the game. So for somebody to say, well, cash shops are going to cost you more in the long run, yeah. If you have no self-control, yeah. But if you have no self-control, that's not the game's problem. That's not a problem with free-to-play. That's a problem with you. Not a problem with the business model. It's not a problem with the developer. That's a problem with you. So, I hold accountable who I hold accountable. I don't hold the devs accountable for somebody who can't resist buying an RNG box that has stuff that you don't need, essentially. Anyway, that's access to all content. Gated content, point number 3. With a subscription, you're guaranteed regular quality updates and expansions. Yes, you'll get your expansions. Guild Wars without subscription got expansion. In fact, not only did they get expansions, they've got 2 complete independent campaigns after the first one without a subscription, and then they got their expansion after that, again without a subscription. So having a subscription doesn't mean you're going to get anything better than a free-to-play or a buy-to-play game. And in fact, I don't think there's a subscription-based game out today that can match the content pace that Guild Wars 2 has put out at this point in its first year of life. Guild Wars 2 has put out more content than basically the original had with the 3 campaigns and the expansion put together in 8 years. And more content in their first year of life than I think any subscription-based game has put out in its first year of life. Again, I don't play Guild Wars 2. Wasn't interested in it after I started following it and finding out the changes, but that's probably yet another show we can talk about. But I'm going to give credit where credit is due. And A-Net hit it out of the park again. 2 quality games, one very much to my liking, one not. But you can't say that a subscription is going to get you any more content than ArenaNet has put out with Guild Wars 2. And really, if you take the originals too, again, no subscription fee, they put out a heck of a lot of content, and they still, to this day, continue to update Guild Wars. It's in maintenance mode. It's been in maintenance mode for a couple years, thanks to Guild Wars 2, but they're still doing stuff that just this past couple of weeks. They had a festival event, the second annual, I think the Wayfarer's Reverie, they call it, which is basically a celebration of the launch of Guild Wars 2. They had it last year during the launch. This was the second year. And this time around, they gave us a couple of new items as quest rewards. A game that's 8 years old without a subscription and is in maintenance mode, has been in maintenance mode for 2 years. Got a little bit of a content update. So don't give me the argument that a free-to-play game does not get content updates. They all do. Again, generally speaking, they all get content updates at a regular clip, and it's pretty quality content updates. Star Wars The Old Republic has been free-to-play for a year. Once that transition went through, we've been getting regular content updates 6 to 8 weeks. Whether you like them or not, hey, that has no bearing on the subject, whatever. You might like one update, not another. Subscription free-to-play, that means nothing. But free-to-play game, we're getting content updates, as are the others. Dungeon Runners, if I remember, we were getting content updates then too. So free-to-play games are updated. You're getting content updates. You'll be getting DLC. You'll be getting expansions for some of the bigger ones, as we've already seen. Ironically enough, Star Wars The Old Republic, their cadence for updates every 6 to 8 weeks isn't that far off what Matt says they're going to be giving updates for Elder Scrolls Online with this subscription. They're banking on 4 to 6 weeks. You're getting a content update with your subscription. All right, so you're beating us by 2 weeks with Star Wars The Old Republic. 6 to 8 weeks Star Wars, 4 to 6 weeks Elder Scrolls Online. Still, $15 a month? Nothing. I think I can live with 2 week difference there. No problem with that. So, again, another argument that really falls flat on its face once you start really thinking about it. Again, content updates are no way to justify an expansion, or justify a subscription, I should say, excuse me. It doesn't make sense. Finally, we have pay to win. Now, this is probably the biggest argument against having a free-to-play game, because somehow, still to this day, people equate free-to-play with pay-to-win, and that is just not the case. Again, there's roots of free-to-play. That's how free-to-play got started over in the Eastern Asian market. A lot of the games still, are pay-to-win games. But part of the problem with this argument is that there is no official definition of pay-to-win. So what pay-to-win means to me is going to mean different to somebody else, is going to mean different to that person over there. So one game may seem pay-to-win to that person, ain't gonna seem to be pay-to-win to me or this other person over here. So that's part of the problem with this argument, is that there's no set definition for the term, and really what pay-to-win means to one person is going to be based on their preference, their personal play style, and how they get enjoyment out of the games. So to say the fact that if a game is free to play, it automatically means pay to win, again, falsehood. Generally speaking, if you even take a sort of wide stance on what pay to win is, there's a lot of free to play games that are nothing like pay to win. Again, with Bide to Play Guild Wars, nothing in their cash shop gave you any advantage over anybody else that didn't pay anything, didn't buy anything from the cash shop. You're on equal footing. Same thing with Star Wars The Old Republic. Now, there are a few things that could be a little bit sketchy. But again, if you want to true get down to the root of pay to win stuff, like there's nothing in Star Wars The Old Republic gives you advantage over another player who doesn't pay. And some of that can, is based on, PvP elements, that kind of stuff that, make players mechanics that give you equal footing regardless of what gear you have. So, but again, that's more of a topic for next time. That's a whole show in and of itself. So basically, those are the 4 main points. Bad community? Nope. To boil it down, subscription ain't going to get you any better community than a free-to-play game. It's just not going to happen. We already know subscription ain't going to get you expansions. Most likely it's not going to get you DLC, the new trend in gaming, MMO gaming especially. You're still going to be paying extra for fluff stuff in the cash shop, even with a subscription, especially in Elder Scrolls Online. They've already said, we're going to have a fluff shop. We're going to have a fun stuff. That's your fluff cash shop. You're going to be paying extra for that stuff. It doesn't come with your subscription. Regular quality updates and expansions. There's been some subscription games that kind of suck on that front. So that's no guarantee either. And just because you're a free-to-play game doesn't mean you're not getting that stuff. A lot of free-to-play games, as I mentioned, do have quality updates and expansions, and they don't need a subscription in order to provide them. And again, pay to win. Just because it's free to play doesn't mean it's pay to win, and just because you have a subscription doesn't mean you can't possibly get free to play anyway. If you're going to have a cash shop, you might very well see pay to play in the Elder Scrolls Online, depending on what they have in their cash shop. So that's still no guarantee, at least as far as the Elder Scrolls is concerned. But again, that's for next time. Anyway, where do you stand on this argument? Are you for subscriptions? Are you for free to play? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're for subscriptions, hey, let us know why. It's always good to have another perspective on this subject. I think that will do it for this episode. Until next time, I will see you in game.